out to David. As we saw here in the third chapter, Abner reaches out to him. And we noted in verse 12 what he said. Whose is the land? Who belongs, who deserves to be king? It's kind of the same way of saying that. Who deserves to be king? And he says, you make a covenant with me and I'll deliver Israel to you. So they have this consultation, and then they have this exchange. David demands that he gets Michal, his wife, back, and it is a sign, I think, a very, very significant sign of Ishbosheth's weakness, that Ishbosheth returns her. And we get into now verse 17. Abner had consultation with the elders of Israel, saying, in times past you were seeking for David to be king over you. So then do it, for the Lord has spoken of David, saying, by the hand of my servant David, I will save my people Israel from the hand of the Philistines and from the hand of all their enemies. And Abner had also spoken in the hearing of Benjamin, and in addition, Abner went to speaking in the hearing of David and Hebron, all that seemed good to Israel and to the whole house of Benjamin. So here is Abner, who's beginning to actively lobby for David and actively push for him being named king. And so David invites him to meet with him in Hebron. This is in verse 20. Then Abner and 20 men with him came to David at Hebron. David made a feast for Abner and the men who were with him. And Abner said to David, let me arise and go and gather all Israel to my lord the king, that it may make covenant with you, and that you may be king over all that your soul desires. So David sent Abner away, and he went in peace. Now, he holds this, essentially a peace conference with Abner to kind of make out the arrangements of how this transfer of power is going to be done. Abner clearly positioning himself as the kingmaker, obviously expecting some high office of some sort in return. But David makes a serious mistake. David makes a very serious mistake in that David does not include Joab in any of this consultation. And of course, Joab has got at least two reasons to be hating Abner. First of all, of course, Abner has killed his brother in this battle. Abner had killed Ahithophel. We had read about that. And so Joab, of course, is angry about his brother's murder, or his brother's killing. It wasn't a murder, but he was angry about that killing, first of all. And second of all, it's probably not too hard to imagine that Abner is a little worried about his job. Joab is the ruler, or the commander, rather, of David's army. He's one of the leading military men in this area. And yet here comes Abner now, maneuvering for a position. And we can imagine that Joab sees this as a threat to his office. And so here are two very good reasons for Joab to be wanting to do harm to Abner. We see what happens then. Verse 22. Behold, the servants of David and Joab came from a raid and brought much spoil with them, but Abner was not with David in Hebron, for he had sent him away and he had gone in peace. When Joab, now notice, that's the second time he says he'd sent him away in peace. That's the second time the author here describes this. The emphasis here is that Abner has come under a truce, if you will. Abner has come under a truce, and David has met with him. They've had a meal together, and David has sent him on his way, still under the truce. Okay. So we have to understand that as these events unfold, we're going to see how this must have looked to the rest of Israel, this event that's about to unfold here. sent him away. He'd gone away in peace. When Joab and all the army that was with him arrived, they told Joab, saying, Abner the son of Ner was here, or came to the king, and he sent him away, and he's gone in peace. Third time. Then Joab said to the king, What have you done? Behold, Abner came to you, and why did you send him away, and he is already gone? You know that Abner the son of Ner, that he came to deceive you, and to learn of your going out and coming in, and to find out all that you are doing. So here's Joab's argument why Abner didn't come here. Abner didn't come here to meet with you and establish a covenant. He's coming in as a spy. He's coming in as a recon. He's coming in to look over and see how the troops are positioned and how the fortifications are established. And he's coming in here so that he can be ready to, when he comes into attack, he'll know where everything's laid out, how everything's laid out. That's Abner's reasoning. And so you see here, Joab immediately begins to slander Abner. Again, pushing for his own agenda. And we see this. Here is this man who is, got this mortal enemy in the form of Abner, and he's willing to accuse him of anything in order to, realizing that, hey, he seems to have David's attention. I got to get David's attention off of him. And so he accuses him, starts to ascribe all these false motives to him. Well, he apparently gets nowhere, though. That's the problem. Apparently David's going, David isn't paying any attention to him. You notice that there's no record here of David saying anything back to Joab about anything that transpired. And so here's Joab now suddenly realizing he could easily be on the outside looking in. So what happens? When Joab came out from David, he sent messengers after Abner, and they brought him back from the well of Sirah, but David did not know of it. So here's Joab. He gets nowhere with David. He decides, I'm going to have to take action myself. So he sends messengers after after Abner going, hey, come back, probably saying something to the effect of, David still wants to talk to you, or David still needs to ask you something, or some kind of message. There is an implication there that this was done in the name of David. That that this was it was done at David's behest to bring Abner back. Verse 27. So when Abner returned to Hebron, Joab took him aside into the middle of the gate to speak with him privately, and there he struck him in the belly so that he died on account of the blood of Ahasiel his brother. And afterward David heard of it. He said, I and my kingdom are innocent before the Lord forever of the blood of Abner the son of Ner. May it fall upon the head of Joab and on all his father's house, and may there not fail from the house of Joab one who has a discharge, or who is a leper, or who takes hold of a distaff, or who falls by the sword, or who lacks bread. So Joab and Abishai, his brother, killed Abner because he had put their brother Asahel to death in the battle at Gibeon. Several interesting things we learn here. First of all, Joab calls Abner to come back. He comes back. Again, they are still under truce. The understanding would be we are still under a truce. We are still under an agreement. Hebron, of course, was a city of refuge, was in fact even a city of refuge. And so it would have been illegal for Joab to kill Abner in a city of refuge. It was illegal to do so. And so Abner clearly comes back believing he's in no danger. We notice that it's Joab who stabs him, although apparently from verse 30, both Joab and Ahasiel were involved in this act. We don't know what exactly Ahasiel's role was, but he's implicated along with Joab for doing this. And we note we should pay attention to the fact that the author here makes very careful note to point out that David had nothing to do with this. David had no role here. And so the author here is preserving David's good character, David's good name. And no doubt this, David is trying to get this broadcast that this was not according to his will. In fact, David announces a curse then when he hears of this. David announces a curse. Again, you can understand David's position. David's trying to unify the country. They've got bigger fish to fry, if you will. They're fighting the Philistines. They're trying to unify the country. And now here's Joab, who's done this amazingly dangerous and foolish thing. And, he's put David in a very bad spot. And he announces this curse on him. He says, let there fall on the head of Joab. These curses. We might ask the question, why does David not punish Joab? And the point is made that, here when that Amalekite, of course, had come and said, hey, I killed Saul for you, David had immediately put him to death. We're going to see here in a few minutes when two other men come and they've murdered Ishbosheth, and they come, David immediately puts them to death. Why doesn't he punish Joab? Why isn't Joab put to death? Why isn't Joab at least banished or something like that? And this seems to be an ongoing problem with David. That that one of the writers writing some comments on this pointed out, David appeared to be very effective in the office, but when he got home, he seemed to be unable to make a decision. And the point could be made, when God calls for his leaders, when God calls for his administrators, he wants those people that are doing that. They ought to be capable of, as we read in the New Testament, capable of running their own households. We don't pick elders, we don't pick deacons by how well you do at business, how well you do in running your own household. And David was just a man like that. David was really good at administration. David was really good at planning and executing military operations. When it came to dealing with his own family, when it came to dealing with problems in the house, somehow he couldn't muster up the nerve to get it done. Now, undoubtedly, he's thinking about if he puts Joab behind